Hello friends, I am Dr. Vidya Patil, serving as Assistant Professor of English at Government First Grade Women's College, Bidar. In my previous video, we have been discussing about the different criteria which are the main basis for the NAAC assessment and accreditation process. We have already looked into the first three criteria in the previous video. Now, in this video, we will try to understand the remaining four criteria and what are the key indicators under each of these criteria. The fourth criteria, infrastructure and learning resources. This criteria focuses basically on the adequacy of the infrastructure and the optimum utilization of the infrastructure. For any academic program to be implemented successfully, it is necessary that the required infrastructure should be in adequate quantity as well as proper and maximum utilization of these resources should be taken up. Therefore, under the fourth criteria, NAAC tries to assess whether these higher education institutions are providing the faculty and the staff with the basic infrastructure and whether the infrastructure which is available in the education institution is being put to maximum and optimum use. Here, it is also taken into consideration whether the different constituents of the institution, that is, the students, teachers, and the administrative staff are all able to make use of these facilities which are being provided by the institution. Another aspect which is looked into under this criteria is whether expansion of facility, the given facilities is being taken up by the higher education institution and what are the future plans for development of the institution. There are four main key indicators under the fourth criteria, infrastructure and learning resources. Physical facilities. Every higher education institution needs to provide adequate infrastructure in order for the educational programs to be effectively implemented in their institution. These physical facilities should meet the requirements of all the curricular activities, the extracurricular activities, and other research activities also. The next key indicator, which is assessed under the fourth criteria, is library as a learning resource. The library plays a very important role for both the faculty as well as the students. Therefore, it is necessary that the library takes up all the upgradation processes which are essential, especially introducing e-books, e-journals, ILMS systems in the regular functioning, as well as remote access to e-resources. These are the different aspects which a library needs to implement. Proper utilization of ICT resources, both in academic and administrative matters, is emphasized on under this key indicator. For we who are working in government colleges, this the introduction of the LMS, that is the learning management system in the teaching learning process, and the introduction of the UUCMS, that is the Unified University and College Management System in the administrative work, has brought about a lot of relief and will surely give us extra points under this key indicator. The last key indicator under this criteria, that is maintenance of campus infrastructure. So provision of infrastructure is one part, but proper maintenance and replenishment of the infrastructure is another aspect which NAAC emphasizes upon. So whether the higher education institution has made provisions for maintenance in its budget, and what are the various measures which have been taken up by the higher education institution to maintain the infrastructure and to develop the infrastructure in the forthcoming years. These are the various aspects which are looked in under this key indicator. So this fourth criteria, infrastructure and learning resources, basically deals with the adequacy of the infrastructure provided, the optimum utilization of the infrastructure which is available, whether all the constituents of the college are being able to make use of this infrastructure, and what are the provisions for the maintenance of the infrastructure. The fifth criteria is student support and progression. Under this criteria, NAAC has outlined certain basic measures which have been taken up by the higher education institution to enable and assist the student in the campus. So, under this criteria, NAAC has outlined that it is the responsibility of every higher education institution to provide meaningful experiences to the students during the learning process. Also, it is again the responsibility of the higher education institution to work towards the holistic development of a student. Keeping a record of the student's performance during his entire tenure in that particular college, also preparing the profiles of the alumni students and keeping a record of the progression of students either into higher education or into gainful employment. These are the other aspects which are covered under this criteria. There are four main key indicators under the fifth criteria, student support and progression. Student support is the key indicator which focuses on the various support systems which are available in the higher education institution for the students, especially cells such as the student guidance and counseling cell or the placement cell. So it is through these cells that proper guidance and counseling measures can be taken up for the students who come from diverse backgrounds, and also proper orientation of the students for their career opportunities can be given to them through these various cells which are functioning in the higher education institution. Student progression. So whether proper steps have been taken by the higher education institution for the holistic development of the student. As per the NAAC guidelines, it is the responsibility of the higher education institution to transform these students into socially responsible citizens who can make meaningful decisions not only for themselves but for their community also. So, making the students aware about various social issues and causes is one of the important aspects which is assessed under this key indicator. Student participation and activities. So, under this key indicator, it is checked whether the students are being involved in different kinds of activities and whether all the students are participating in these various activities which are taken up by the institution. Here, it is also seen whether the infrastructure and resources are enough to enable the students to participate in these different activities. Alumni engagement is again another important aspect or key indicator under this criteria. So, NAAC tries to assess whether the higher education institutions have been keeping in touch with the alumni, maintaining their profiles, and also using these alumni associations as a student support program and mobilization of resources which is being done through the alumni associations. These mobilization of resources may be both financial and non-financial in nature. So, the fifth criteria, student support and progression, is basically focusing on the support systems which are prevalent in the higher education institution for the assistance of the students in their teaching learning process as well as in their holistic development. Here also emphasis is given to the alumni associations and how the assistance of the alumni is being taken up for student support activities and for mobilization of resources. So, the higher education institution which intends to go in for the NAAC assessment and accreditation process has to look into these aspects when they are trying to develop the supporting documentation for the fifth criteria. The sixth criteria is governance, leadership, and management. Under this criteria, the major aspect which is being examined is the various, the different policies and programs which have been evolved by the institution regarding planning of human resources, recruitment of the faculty, training of the faculty, performance appraisals of the staff members, the financial management of the institution, and the overall role of leadership in the institution. The first key indicator under this criteria is the institutional vision and leadership. Every institution needs to set for itself a certain mission and certain set of goals. What are the measures which have been taken up by the institution to achieve these goals is what is being assessed under this particular key indicator. So, whether proper procedures are being followed to implement the academic and administrative matters in the institution is assessed under this key indicator framework. The next key indicator, that is strategy development and deployment, looks into whether the higher education institution is aligning the various measures, both academic as well as administrative measures which have been taken up in order to reach the goals of the institution. Faculty empowerment strategies. Under this key indicator, the higher education institution is assessed for the various measures taken up by the institution in order to empower their faculty, that is, to refresh their knowledge, to upgrade the knowledge of the faculty at regular interval. The third key indicator, which is faculty empowerment strategies. So, this includes the entire process of recruitment of the faculty, training of the faculty, constant upgradation of the faculty, collecting feedbacks, and performance appraisals of the faculty. All these aspects are looked into. The next important key indicator here is financial management and resource mobilization. So, under this key indicator, it is imperative that every higher education institution is practicing certain processes so that there is proper allotment of budget for various activities in the institution. Also, whether transparency is being maintained in the financial management is another important aspect which is examined under this key indicator. The last key indicator, that is the internal quality assurance system. For this key indicator, it is necessary that every higher education system should have an actively functioning IQAC, that is an internal quality assessment cell. So, here the activities of the IQAC, especially the academic and administrative audits which are being taken up regularly in the higher education institution, forms the major area which is assessed. Also, under this, it is seen to it whether the IQAC is able to coordinate all the curricular and extracurricular activities along with various goals which have been set up by the institution. So the sixth criteria, that is governance, leadership and management, is basically related to the planning of human resources, the recruitment, the upgradation of the faculty, the performance appraisals and feedback about the faculty. Apart from this, the function of the IQAC in maintaining standards of quality in the higher education institution is also assessed. So any higher education institution which is willing to go in for the NAAC assessment and accreditation process needs to first work on some building up the documentation and the supporting materials which are necessary to show that all these aspects are being looked into and that the higher education institution is catering to these different key indicators which have been outlined under this criteria. The last criteria, that is the seventh criteria, is the institutional values and best practices. In the various changes which are taking place in the world around us, in order to be relevant, it is necessary that the higher educational institutions be responsive to the emerging challenges and should try to find meaningful solutions to the pressing issues at hand. So, the key indicators under this criteria are institutional values and social responsibilities. Under this key indicator, it is necessary that the students are made aware of the emerging social issues at hand, such as gender equality, environmental awareness, professional ethics, and other such issues. Also, best practices of an institution are assessed under this key indicator. So, here, every institution during its process of working evolves certain such program processes or practices which helps in the smooth functioning of the system. This may be academic in nature or administrative in nature. So, these best practices need to be highlighted by the institution. The last key indicator under this criteria is the institutional distinctiveness. In this time of so much of competition, when there is so much of competition everywhere around us, it is necessary that every higher educational institution has certain special characteristic which makes it distinct from all other higher education institutions. It is this institutional distinctiveness which adds to the quality of that particular higher education institution. So those higher education institutions which are planning to go in for the NAAC assessment and accreditation process need to have proper measures in place so that these social responsibilities are being taken up by the institution and various best practices are being evolved regularly in the institution. Also, the institution needs to identify certain special characteristics of the institution which make it distinct from all the other institutions. So friends, in today's video, we have discussed about the last four criteria which are assessed by the NAAC, that is the National Assessment and Accreditation Council. In the previous video and in this particular video, we have tried to examine the various quality indicator frameworks. So we have now understood about the 7 criteria, the various key indicators under each of these criteria here. These key indicators are further subdivided into matrices which need to be taken up in much more detail. So when we fill up the IIQA or submit the SSR, we will actually be trying to provide suitable documentation and proof for these various matrices, which on the basis of which we are going to be assessed. In this series of 4 videos, I have tried to give you an overview about the functioning of the NAAC and the major criteria which are assessed under the NAAC assessment and accreditation process. The first 2 videos dealt mainly with the aims and objectives of NAAC and the terminology which is associated with the NAAC assessment and accreditation process. The third and fourth video is related to the 7 criteria on which an higher education institution is assessed. Shortly, I will be recording another series of videos in which I will try to take up each of the criteria in detail and examine the various kinds of documentation and supporting material which needs to be prepared for the NAAC successful accreditation process by NAAC. I hope these videos have been useful to you to get a brief understanding of what the entire process of NAAC assessment and accreditation is, and to understand the various aspects which are going to be assessed by NAAC. Thank you for your patient hearing. I hope you liked the video. Thank you.